What's going on, everybody? You're live with Osiris, and welcome to the Authors Lounge. I decided to relaunch this platform because I've been meeting such an extensive amount of authors and publishers or writers, people in this venue as a whole, and I decided, you know what, I need to bring this back. It's been good doing my self-help podcast, which is titled Feel Good Happiness, if you're curious, but I have a wonderful person here with me today. I will not introduce this person's name. I would like to just give you the bio and let everything else follow. So, our guest is an award-winning indie author, poet, historical novelist, and forensic historian who is one of California's most respected and sought-after creative writing educators and certified copy editors. She is an experienced conference presenter and a favorite speaker at book clubs, fairs, and festivals. Additionally, she has earned a master's degree in education and completed postgraduate work in European history and Italian literature in Rome. And I'm going to have to correct me. I want to make sure I get this city right. Perugia?
Perugia.
Perugia. Okay, thank you. Perugia, Italy. She is also fluent in English, Italian, and French, displaying there are no limitations to what you can learn if you remain committed. With a strong belief in presenting the voices of women and other underrated and other underrepresented groups in historical settings, her passion for the promotion of literature is seemingly endless. But her resume doesn't end there. Her multi-time award-winning book series, The American Madams, can be purchased via Amazon and is well worth the read. With over 40 years of experience teaching and writing, there's no barriers she can't tear down. Without further ado, I present to you Gini Grossenbacher. Did I get it right?
Yeah.
I did. Okay. Thank you so much. Thank you so much. What a resume. What a bio. Yes, ma'am. Well, thank you so much for let me get to this other part so I make sure I get that right. Thank you so much for, taking a moment out of your busy day to come on to this show and just show me some support and show the platform some love and just be able to provide for this. So
My
I
pleasure.
know. Yes, ma'am. Yes, ma'am. Now, I know we met a couple of years ago back in the Bay Area Book Festival in Berkeley, California, and just meeting you and meeting Miss Cheryl and meeting Mark, who was to my left. It was an amazing experience. Now, I got a lot of questions for you. So, if you don't mind, I'd like to go ahead and start asking away. Okay. So, with such an extensive background in writing, when exactly did you know being a writer was a path you wanted to pursue?
Well, when I was a little girl, I used to write plays and put them on with my best friends. So when I was, 8 years old, we would dress in my sister's prom dresses and put on their big shoes, and we would act out parts. And so I always knew that I wanted to be a writer and a creative writer, fiction writer.
Hmm.
Write stories about things that I would just make up all of these characters and they would act out in my imagination. And so that was my dream. And even in eighth grade, I put in the report to my eighth grade teacher that I wanted to be a writer. And
Hmm.
so it just was natural that I would want to.
Oh wow! So playwright, is that something that's going to be in your future as well?
No, I really, playwriting is interesting and it's fun, and I've actually taught a course in it. But my big thing is getting into a novel.
Hmm.
I like the when people can dive right into my story and stay
Yeah.
there. I think reading is a special thing, and
Hmm.
especially now with ebooks and audiobooks and everything. And if someone wants to make a screenplay out of a book, then that's cool. But
Hmm.
in my experience, I love writing novels. I like
Hmm.
poetry too.
Oh yes. Oh, you are a skilled poet. I have actually. This is off topic, but um, I happen to have one of your books
Yeah.
right here. Yeah, man. No, this wasn't in the schedule, but you have always been kind to me, and this book, it I keep it in it's in great condition. I keep it in next to me with a collection of the authors whom I've met who've given me like their books, and so I keep it. It's sacred to me.
Thank you so much. I
Oh yes.
appreciate that.
Oh yeah, so it's right there in pristine conditions. Okay, so my follow-up question to that is being a writer, right? It isn't an easy task by any stretch. And given your success, it would seem you benefit from this profession financially. I know we spoke about that a little bit prior to that. How are you able to blend your love for writing and make a living simultaneously?
Well, I would say that in today's marketplace, unless you are a writer that is employed full time by a top five publishing house, a traditional publisher, you have to really, really diversify in order to make a living. You have to have several income streams, the book being a central stream, but then you have to have an awful lot of other um, avenues in order to make sure that your book is selling and that your brand is selling. So it takes business acumen. And so that's what I've been doing is at least being able to keep par, to keep
Hmm.
par. I as yet I'm still working on making a profit, and sometimes I think I see that I'm going to make a profit, and other
Yeah.
years I basically break even. So what I'll say is that uh, my kind of entrepreneurial business carries high risk because
Mhm.
it really depends on the economy. And what taught me that was COVID,
Yes.
because I love going out to fairs and festivals and meeting writers. I mean, you'll see me at an antique fair. I love putting out my vintage books and talking to writers. But when we had COVID, things basically dried up. And
Hmm.
so there's high risk in any kind of entrepreneurial enterprise, and especially in the arts.
Yeah.
So we're now coming back after COVID, but it's been a long haul. And I do believe that for some people, this could be too high risk. I think
Mhm.
they probably need to have a day job and then supplement with this creative aspect of their lives.
That's such such an insight. You know, you had mentioned something about a brand. How do you identify what your brand is, or better yet, how did you create your own brand to make it to what it is today?
Well, I had a really good, first, I had a good agent who kind of got me started on the path. I had a good editor who helped me with my first book. And we decided to actually not really together, but, during that time period to go for the American Madams
Hmm.
uh, theme, actually, because I wanted to write about underrepresented women in Victorian America.
Right.
Women that were prostitutes and women who were in the underbelly of society and treated
Hmm.
terribly, and yet they rose, and they became
Right.
something else. And that was kind of my theme at the time, and part of my brand. But now, because I've grown into different places, as an editor and so forth, it's branched out so that because I'm also publishing now. I publish other authors, uh, collaboratively. We work together to get their books out,
Hmm.
and they have support. So I don't know. What I read recently is that a person is the brand,
Hmm.
so that the individual, especially an author or an artist, when you think about fine art, for example, like um, Jacob Lawrence, a
Hmm.
famous African American artist, you think of him, then you think of his paintings.
Right.
And I think kind of that's true for authors too. You think
Hmm.
of me, and then you think of my books or my editing or,
Right.
the publishing. And so I kind of think that's the way to build your brand is really around yourself.
I think I would agree with that wholeheartedly as well. And I believe one of the things I've learned just in being an entrepreneur and entrepreneurship is that people buy from people they like, that they relate to, that they can trust, I do believe heavily that that plays into the favor of whomever is the face of the business or the face of the brand. You can have a brand that has no face attached to it, but as soon as you put somebody like such as yourself on this brand, hey, this is a poetry collection. If we stamp Jenny's face on it, all of a sudden that's the brand that's affiliated with. Oh, this is her brand. We trust her. We'll buy the book regardless. We don't even care what the price is behind it. We know who she is. Let's support it. So, no, I agree with you, and I think that's important for that to be pointed out during this interview for those who listen who don't really have an idea as to like what do I do, knowing that you are your own brand and to build around who you are as a person is a significantly important. So, the next question I have for you, and thank you by the way for that. Uh, Next question I have is, so you've been doing this for over 40 years, and I'm certain you have plenty of stories. My follow-up question, however, is how much of that experience played into your decision in creating the Elk Grove Writers and Artists?
Okay, well, when I retired from high school English teaching, I was 58, and I decided, and I had a health issue. And so what I decided to do was, I love teaching.
Mhm.
It's just so much fun to me. Plus, I love learning. And so I just said, hey, I'm going to go on meetups, and I'm going to start this group, and um, and then I'm going to get some extra training on how to work with adult learners, which I did. And one thing led to another, and I started with a group of three uh, interested writers in a vegetarian restaurant. And, and then just one thing led to another.
Mhm.
And, it was kind of like I didn't create it alone. I was creating it with the other writers. I would ask their opinions and advice. So we changed up a lot of things together. And two of the three are still with me. And
Oh,
they
nice.
still come to my workshops. In fact,
Mhm.
they hardly ever miss. And they've been with me. They've seen the morph. They've come with me to Ashland, Oregon, to workshops and retreats in Sonoma. And, you know, uh, it's kind of like when like you were saying with trust, once you build that
Mhm.
trust with people, then, it's wonderful.
Mhm.
And so that's it. And when I came to San Rafael to live here last year,
Mhm.
I changed my logo to San Rafael Writers and
Yeah.
Artists because it's important to be where you are, but I still have all the Elk Grove people from before, and we just
Yes.
we just class on Zoom.
See and I think that's the to caveat off of what you said earlier about during COVID. I think that was probably a silver lining, right? One of the blessings that came out of that insanity of the coronavirus era was the booming of virtual fill in the blank Zoom and then Microsoft Teams, Skype, and Google Meets and everything else that followed it allow for situations such as what we're doing right now, doing this virtually. I hadn't. I mean, I'm known it to exist, but it wasn't streamlined. At least I didn't see that it was streamlined. I'm sure like corporations did things they did certain ways, like they communicated like this, but it certainly wasn't to the impact that it is now. So, but I agree with you on that. So, another thing I want to point out is because you have been such a great leader and a great teacher with people, what has been the most rewarding part of teaching writers and or artists?
What I learned from them, what
Hmm.
I learned from them. Before you teach anything, you have to learn it yourself.
Yes.
And so I have, I mean, probably 15 different books that I've used to teach uh, different concepts and novel writing, poetry writing, flash
Hmm.
fiction, storytelling, you name it. And so
Hmm.
every time I have to prepare for a class, I have to learn the material to be able to break it down for people.
Hmm.
And oh my gosh, I just it's like self-education, and yet you get that class with you. They're reflecting off the things that you're saying, and so you're learning it
Hmm.
and incorporating it into your writing. And gosh, it's been a blessing.
That's good. And I could tell that it has been. I mean, you seem happy. Happiness is the perception of whomever, but like just in knowing you for the time that I've known you, you seem exactly the same way as you were when I met you, and it was just good vibes during that time as well. And it's always good to be able to help people, like no matter how you slice it, whether you are getting paid for it or you're not. Just the idea of being able to genuinely care for others and being able to just help them elevate will go so far. And of course, I'm not telling you anything you don't already know, but it's I think it's important for people to hear that you don't have to have monetary value when it comes to helping those. You just do it from the kindness of your heart, and you'll be rewarded for it regardless. There's bad karma, of course, there's good karma. I like to just look at it as doing the right thing, and knowing that in doing the right thing, it's going to come back to you. That good energy will be reciprocated. So, but speaking of me knowing you. And knowing you, I am certain there are countless authors, right, who look to you for guidance. And in doing so, have you ever considered writing a book on the publishing process from your own experience?
Well, I think it might be a nice idea to do.
Hmm.
Um, at this point, I have been embarking on my writing my new novel, my fifth book, and so that has taken up my time. I have learned over the years that I can't take on too much because then I get overwhelmed. And I want to avoid burnout as much as possible and have
Yeah.
a balanced life. Yet, I think you're right. The notes and the ideas that I've gathered over the years are good material for a helpful book on, especially on revising and editing manuscripts. Exactly.
Yeah, I can't imagine, right? You being an editor and not wanting to like edit your own books. Do you edit your own books, or do you hire other editors, given your acumen?
Well, I don't think even an experienced editor can catch everything.
Right.
And especially novel writing is very tricky. And
Mhm.
so I have a very experienced editor who goes through. I have a developmental editor who helps me break down scenes and parts, themes, and things that don't work throughout the book. Because
Mhm.
when you're dealing with a 400-page book or 350 page, you know
Yeah.
how complicated it is. Sometimes you
Mhm.
forget what they were wearing at the beginning and you have them wear something different at the end and everyone's they changed.
Right.
So you have to be consistent, and I like having an outsider do that.
Yes.
And then I have a really wonderful colleague who is a fellow editor up in Oregon, and she does my copy editing and proofing.
Oh, that's nice. That having a community of people that I forgot who I was talking to, but I recently have recorded a video that I put out on X or Twitter for those who don't know the difference, right? I know you do, but just for those who don't, I learned that having the right people in your corner, they could help like direct you in any sort of way. If you don't happen to have an editor, but you are prone to using editing software like an AI editing software, that might cause some issues that a human would catch. And while on the topic of AI editing software, are you opposed for it? Are you for it, or are you indifferent?
Well, Amazon has a policy, uh,
Hmm.
and I follow their policy. Their policy is, and I can't quote it right now, I don't have it in front of me, but something to the extent that you can use AI for ideas, for generating ideas, for information that you might need, someplace in the book, um, and you can use it for outlining, uh, but they will not allow an AI written
Hmm.
manuscript to be sold on Amazon. And so I think people have to be careful
Yep.
because they have plagiarism checkers on Amazon, and if you've submitted a purely written AI manuscript, and let's say they don't catch it, but readers do,
Hmm.
It really doesn't look good. And also, over time, as AI improves, it may be trickier and trickier to catch anything that's been, uh, you know, tinkered with on AI.
Right.
But I still think that readers can tell the difference, at
Yes.
least at this point.
Mhm.
And, we have to stand up as artists,
Right.
say, wait a minute,
Hmm.
this is my work. This is not the work of a robot. And that
Right.
doesn't mean that I might have gone on and had AI create some kind of outline that might assist me in the ideas for my formation of my novel, but it
Right.
doesn't mean that my novel is being written by AI.
Yeah, yeah, I'm with you on that as well. And I think that you could inadvertently, well, not you, proverbial you, right? Inadvertently skew your audience in a direction that makes them feel like they can trust you. Earlier we talked about trust and being able to trust a person and putting them on an image or putting them on on a product, and they buy it because they trust you. But once they catch wind of, oh, this person is disingenuine, they're lying to me. They pretended to do this when they didn't, and they speak about feelings and emotions, or they create these characters, but it came from nothing but a program. And yeah, I'm with you though. Like, I'm not opposed to the idea of using like AI to help you build something, but to actually go and write it on your behalf and you present it as if you did it. That's what I don't support. And I do advise against that, and following the policies that Amazon has, or any platform that anyone posts their manuscript on, is just to know that just trust yourself. If you're not a highly skilled writer, you will get there at some point, as long as you remain persistent in it. Now, I know we spoke about your work in progress, so I don't want to get too much details from that. But the book series that you have established, the American Madams, are you open to just talking briefly about what that series entails and where people can find that book series?
Yeah, my first book was Madam of My Heart, which
Hmm.
involved the rags to riches journey of one of the most successful 1856 madams in San
Yeah.
Francisco. And San Francisco at that time, of course, was basically three or four city blocks, the wharf, and a Chinese settlement. And then, of course, then with the all the riches from the gold rush,
Hmm.
then things changed, and she became very, very wealthy. So it's her story, and that is Madam of My Heart, which was my first one and sold very well.
Hmm.
And I have some beautiful reviews on Amazon. So, Madam of My Heart is the first one of the American Madams. The second one is Madam in Silk, that was the story that I discovered actually first before
Oh
I
wow.
Madam of My Heart. But it took me more research to do because it
Hmm.
involved exploring Chinese American history as it pertained to the gold rush. And Ah Toy is the madam in that story. And
Hmm.
she came from China. She was one of the very first Cantonese women to step on American soil in the West,
Hmm.
and become a very, very wealthy madam. And she fought tooth and nail against racist ideology at the time.
Hmm.
She stood up for her women. She went to court, and she did this all on tiny bound feet,
Hmm.
because she was, bound. Her feet were bound when she was,
Yeah.
4 or 5, as was the custom. And her story is based on the true story of Toy, who actually died in San
Hmm.
Jose at the uh, ripe old age of 101.
Oh,
And she was a very
yeah.
wealthy cherry farmer at the end.
Uh,
So, yeah, it's just incredible where these women came from and what they ended up doing. So,
hmm.
my last story in the series at this point is Madame in Lace.
Yes.
And this is Celeste, who showed up in Madame in My Heart. And she was a, uh, a prostitute in New Orleans, but she cannot find her mother, who's disappeared. Her mother was a madam and had a brothel in Paris.
Hmm.
And as you may know, there's a big connection between New Orleans and France, and New
Mhm.
Orleans and Paris.
Yes.
So she goes to Paris. This is 1857 and 8, and she goes to find her mother, only to fall in with revolutionaries who want to assassinate the Emperor Napoleon III. And
Mm.
with their help, she is able to travel north to Normandy and find evidence of traces of where her mother might be. And I don't want to give away too much, but she
Yes.
does fall in love along the way.
Oh, that's wow. And the sorry, I didn't want to cut you off. I got excited.
Yeah, it's got history, mystery, and love, which is what I love to write.
Yes. Big congratulations on not only creating a book series that's a novel book series, but a successful novel book series. And it must be something to look around and know that your books are a part of the history of literature. You know, like long after you're gone, long after we're not here anymore, that your stories will still be read by people decades down the line. At least, we would hope, right? Whatever we've done, but it speaks volumes to know that you've achieved such success with your stories and the reviews that you've. It's hard for those who are writers or authors, anyone who is an entrepreneur, and you have any product up for review. It is so tricky to accumulate reviews, but once you receive them, it can be a domino effect, and it can just roll on by, but there can be times where it stagnates. So just fight for it. The reviews are the lifeline of your product. The more reviews you have, especially over an extended period of time, the better the case is for those to be able to trust the product. It all comes back down to the brand and the person, and that feeds into the just think of it as of you have IVs and units feeding into you. That's those reviews, figuratively speaking, are feeding into your book and the lifeline of it. So just continue to get those reviews, continue to do great work. And for you, Jenny, thank you so much. Before I let you go, one last thing. I know where I can find you, but if you can share it with everyone listening, where can they find you and your work?
Just come visit me on www.ginigrossenbacher.com, and you will find me. And if you need to contact me directly for appearances or interviews or just advice, um, there's a contact. So, and even if you just Google me at Gini Grossenbacher, you'll find me.
There it is. Thank you so much. And I will make sure to link her website in the description of this video across all the platforms where this video will be aired on. That includes the audio version of this. I'll make sure I include that as well, so you all can find her. Thank you so much, Jenny, for just taking the time out of your day to come by here and really just, feels like it's been a long time in the making to be able to do this with you, to have you on in some capacity, to be able to share your story and for us to just to connect. And I wish you nothing but continued success in your husband and your family. And thank you so much for your time, Jenny.
Well, thank you too for this opportunity. And it's such a pleasure to know you and to watch your progress as an entrepreneur as well. And I wish you every blessing.
Yes, indeed. Until next time, I'll see you at the San Francisco Writer Conference in a few weeks. And other than that, hey, thank you all so much for just taking the time out of your day to tune in to today's episode. You're live with Osiris in the Author's Lounge with Jenny as well. And I'll catch you next time. Thank you.